Kimba size, doctor.
He's be tripping out, Kimba be tripping.
Kimba in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi there, it's me, Kimba Radio Broadcast, Season 5, Episode 1, Burton Cummings. And I know I usually name the cast after a song title, but I could not decide. American Woman, These Eyes, Laughing, No Time, Share the Land, No Sugar Tonight, New Mother Nature, Clap for the Wolfman, Undone, Stand Tall. So I just went with the guy who wrote and sang them all, and here he is now.
Well, hello.
Hello.
I want to tell you, this is truly as much of an honor as it is a treat for me.
Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know what to say. My hat size will be going up from the compliments, but thank you very much. Very kind words.
As they should be. And best known to many as the singer-songwriter from the Guess Who, but also some stellar solo works in your own right, certainly.
Thank you very much. You know, making records has been something that has always fascinated me. I'll tell you how that started. I never knew my dad. My dad was a terrible drunk, and my mother grabbed me to get away from him when I was about a year old. So she had to go to work to support me. And every morning before she would go to work, she would play she had 78s. She had a collection of 78s. And she would play those for me. And before I ever went to kindergarten, I was fascinated with records because I realized they freeze time. And so if I loved a song, even as a little kid before kindergarten, I knew I could pick up the label, go back to the beginning, and enjoy that song again. So as a tiny kid, I realized the magic of recording and records. And I really wanted to make records from the time I was very, very young.
You're giving me chills because just talking about the power of music, and I couldn't agree more. I wholeheartedly agree. I do want to we should mention that you are going to be playing at the Broward Center February 8th, which is a Saturday, with Jim Messina.
Yes, I'm very happy to be back in the States. All that trouble with the fake Guess Who is over.
Yes.
We had a terrible legal problem, and they were literally legally keeping me out of the States for years. But I'll tell you, since we started again in last September, we started, our first gig was South Dakota. It was a festival in South Dakota. And immediately I felt this welcome back vibe, because a lot of people had come to realize there was a fake cover band out there calling itself the Guess Who, and using our records to promote their fake shows. But I'm feeling this tremendous welcome back vibe, and I gotta tell you, this is like it's happening all over again for me. It's great.
It's bucket list for a lot of us that are going to be able to see you on February 8th. Truly, truly it is. And I know you mentioned it was September, right around the same time that we all got to find out that when it's the Guess Who now, it would be you. But also you released another album.
Yes, I have a new album. It's called A Few Good Moments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of it. We do a couple of the songs already in our show, but there's one that has really caught on. It's called Blackjack Fever, and it's about when I used to play blackjack and realize that other people don't know what they're doing when they play blackjack. So it's a song about having left blackjack, and now I'm just a slot machine player. I have my own universe, and I don't have to worry about bad play by other people. But it's funny about this song, Blackjack Fever. It caught on so quickly. People were singing along the first time they heard it. Hit me, I'm already doubled down. Hit me, let's get to another round. Oh, I got the blackjack fever. So it's very exciting after doing 30-something albums. I've done over 30 albums now. And yet to have that vibe again when there's a brand new song and you're hearing it catch on. That excitement has never left me, ever.
Well, good. And I think you can hear that in your songs. And that's the thing. I don't know if you realize that. You write a catchy tune now and again.
Well, it's funny. Randy Bachman and we grew up in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And we were very lucky at that time there were only about 350,000 people in Winnipeg, but we had three major AM radio stations, and they were all competing for the audience. So they were all giving us their best game. And because of that competition, we heard more music than anyone else in Canada. We were hearing things from England and Australia. And Sunday morning, I used to get up. There was a show called Dino Corey Hits Around the World. And I would get up early in the morning to hear this because he was playing stuff by Cliff Richard and the Shadows from England, and he
Oh,
was
wow.
playing stuff from Australia and groups from Germany. And I think we were luckier than anyone else in Canada because no one else was hearing all those things, but we were. And I think that crept into the songwriting.
Well, I appreciate that you even remember the DJ's names as a DJ. That warms the cockles of my heart. I got to ask you, because I know in February 8th, Jim Messina will be opening for you, but I do recall a story of your very first time in LA. You spent it with another Jim kind of behind your head right there.
Well, it's a long story, but I'll tell you what happened. It was the first time I had ever set my foot on California soil, ever in my life. I had never been to California. We went down to do American Bandstand. We had These Eyes and Laughing by that time, and we were on American Bandstand with Dick Clark. And we got to LA, and the other guys were older than me. They were 3-4 years older than me. They just wanted to stay in their hotel room. And I said, my God, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm going for a walk. So I walked all the way from Sunset and Highland, I guess it was, all the way to the Whiskey. I wanted to see the Whiskey where everyone had played. And I got there and it was closing and everyone was going home. And I said, okay, now I've seen the Whiskey. I go outside, there's a whole lineup of cabs. And I get in a cab to go back to my hotel. And the driver says, I guess you're going to the big party too. And I said, yeah, I am. Let's go. So this guy takes me up to this mansion like Beverly Hillbillies. And I managed to get in and the cab left. And there I was in this party. I didn't know anybody. It was crazy, loud music and people in the pool. And I sat at a piano in the corner, and a guy sat next to me and started playing the high notes on the piano. And I didn't even look up, but after a few minutes, I looked up and it was, in fact, Jim Morrison. So, long story short, he had been drinking and I thought he shouldn't be driving. So I said, give me your keys, man. I'll take you anywhere you want. So he got in the back seat of his GTO with two girls, and I drove them around for at least 3 or 4 hours, maybe longer. And the strangest part is about a year later, he was gone. So
Oh, wow.
no one will ever get to live that experience again. And it's funny. I have told this story many times in interviews and to friends I've known, and a lot of people don't believe me. But you know what? I don't care.
You
Because
know.
I lived it. I
Yeah.
lived it, and it's
You
in
know.
here. And whether people believe me or not, it's irrelevant to me. You can see Jim behind me, probably.
I know. Yes, yes.
I was always a huge Doors fan, and that was really quite an experience.
I believe you. And I think that's how lucky can one get. But
Thank you.
you
Thank
just
you.
mentioned These Eyes, and I know that this tour, you're calling it the 60th anniversary hits tour, and it never, as big of a fan as I am, it never occurred to me when I know the age you just turned, and then, I'm no mathematician, but I subtract 60. You were a teenager when you wrote These Eyes.
Yeah, I think I was still 19.
That's
and
crazy.
Well, it was all hypothetical. I hadn't lived, I did the lyrics, and I hadn't lived long enough to have been through any emotional setbacks or tough times. It was all hypothetical. Now, later in life, when I wrote Stand Tall, that was based on reality and heartbreak and all of that. But These Eyes, Randy and I just, it was all hypothetical, and it clicked so big. it was 1969. Everybody wanted to be Led Zeppelin. We didn't particularly want to have a huge ballad as a hit, but
Right,
it took
right.
off so big. And then RCA said, please give us another one kind of like that. And we wrote Laughing specifically for that reason.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, but I think because even though you're saying you wrote it hypothetically, it didn't sound that way. The longing, the sound that you came out with, it's like you would have thought you had been through it and come back and bought the T-shirt.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That's very kind. But as I said, I think a lot of the songwriting started because we were hearing such a variety of songs on the radio. And I think that crept into our songwriting. And I think it was great for Randy and me both.
My best friend and I, we had older siblings, so we got exposed to some music a little bit earlier. And I remember she would play your solo works like Stand Tall. But for some reason, one song that really sticks out at me remembering listening to with her was Charlemagne.
Oh, straight ahead rock and roll. 3 chords, nothing fancy, just straight ahead rock and roll, 3 chords. And I guess a lot of pounding piano. Jerry Lee Lewis,
Yeah.
Little Richard, Fats Domino. Those were my heroes when I was a tiny kid.
That friend that I just mentioned to you, she's having a birthday, and we're having a friend-iversary, as they call it today. And I am surprising her by taking her to your show.
Oh, excellent. Well, good. Terrific. Thank you. Boy, we better be on our best.
I mean, I know that you are considered Canadian rock and roll royalty, but you're pretty throne worthy here too, especially to this American woman. And I mean that in a better way than.
It's funny. I'll tell you very quickly. American Woman was never meant to be political.
I know. I've heard you say that.
We had toured the States on the strength of These Eyes and Laughing. And I noticed then we toured a lot in the States. Then we came back to Canada after all those American shows. And I looked out into the crowd that night and I was thinking to myself, the girls, they don't try and grow up as fast in Canada. They don't wear as much makeup quite as young. In the States, everybody, it seemed that the girls wanted to grow up faster. So I noticed that difference, really stark difference. And that night we made up American Woman. I was looking out into the crowd, and what I was thinking was, Canadian woman, I prefer you.
Right.
But what came out of my mouth was American Woman, stay away. The Vietnam War was at a terrible point of escalation in 1970. So that worked hand in hand with the song. And it was just one of those happy accidents. It was like it went to #1 for 3 weeks. We couldn't believe it.
So you were only in your early 20s when you wrote that.
Yeah, I was just about to turn 21.
Wow. See, I just believe there's something. You are wiser beyond your years and your ears, maybe even the things that the way you put out These Eyes, the ways that you came up with that American Woman. I mean, that's 21.
Well,
you understand what I'm saying? I mean,
as I said, I music was always a huge part of my life from the time I was tiny. So, when I got to be 11 or 12 years old, I got a paper route. So I could buy 3 or 4 singles a week from delivering papers, and singles were 98 cents. And, I was collecting singles from the time I was very young, and I'm still fascinated by records, still.
And we are fascinated by you. I will not take up more of your time. I want to mention again, it's February 8th, a Saturday night at the Broward Center. Jim Messina is opening the show. We still have some tickets available. BurtonCummings.com to find out. I know the tour is going through the end of March. And if you're listening to this podcast from somewhere else, definitely BurtonCummings.com to find out where he is playing near you, and definitely see him. I know we will. And I already know we're going to have a great time. And I can't thank you enough for your time.
Thank you very much for the very kind words.
Absolutely.
And I hope you and Mary really enjoy it. And maybe we'll get a picture together. Maybe we can meet.
Maybe we can
say hello and get a picture together.
We'll see if we can work it all out. But I can't wait.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all the kind words.
Sure, absolutely. Mean every last one of them. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Ciao.
Well, how about that? Thank you for being one of Kimba's herd, and thank you for listening to Me, Kimba, Radio Broadcast, Season 5, Episode 1, Burton Cummings.
Miss Kimba's on the radio.